Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have a book haul for you today. These are all the books that I've gotten since the beginning of the year, essentially. I haven't done a lot of book shopping. Usually before in the past, the amount of books that I have here is like what I could get in like one or two like trips to the bookstore, but recently I haven't been buying a lot. All these books are bought with like a gift card that my mom got me for Christmas. It was like $100, and I think I've spent most of that on these books here, as well as some books that I got her with my gift card money. But yeah, so this is everything from January to March. The month's not technically over yet, but I don't think I'm gonna get anything sometime soon. Again, I haven't really been as motivated to buy books because I want to read what's on my shelves. But yeah, I think I have like 15 books here. So in like no particular order, I think I'll just start somewhere. So the first book I have is Queen of the Amazons by Judith Tarr. Never seen anyone talk about this, never seen the cover, but it was at my used bookstore. It was cheap, and I don't really know what caused me to pick it up. I just saw the spine and I thought it sounded interesting. I think this is like a fantastical twist on the Amazons, and specifically Alexander the Great. In this book we follow the daughter of the Queen of the Amazons. I think her name is Edda, and she was born without a soul, but she's really good at writing and hunting, better than like no one else's business. And apparently there's this conqueror to the west, Alexander of Macedon, who is whose influence is starting to spread, and Edda feels responsible to like stop this. I don't really know how, but she leaves her camp with her Amazon sisters and she goes out and enters Alexander's empire, kind of gets involved. That's all I really know. I also think it's a standalone, so I don't have to continue on with the series. I need more standalones like on my shelves because I mostly read series. So the next book I have is Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. This is the second half of the Monsters of Verity duology. I never read the first book. I still haven't read it. I have it on my shelves, but I haven't read it. For something like a duology, I'd like to have like both of the books on my shelves ready to go. I'd rather not wait for it. And my secondhand bookstore, it kind of has like a good selection of books, but also like the more popular stuff, Victoria Schwab's super popular, kind of go quickly. So first come first serve. They don't have like a ton of stuff from very popular authors, so I picked this up knowing that like the next time I would come, it probably wouldn't have been there. I think it takes place in this kind of like crime-ridden city where when people do bad acts, those bad acts manifest into like monsters or something like that, which sounds really cool and interesting. I've only ever read Victoria Schwab's Vicious, and I've read her like middle grade ghost story, the Cassie Blake one, but I don't think that's a really good judge of like her as like a writer, because I know that was like her first foray into like middle grade. It was like basic for me, but I did really enjoy Vicious, so hopefully I'll get to this duology soon, and I already have the second half, so there's really no reason for me to like procrastinate. So the next two books I'll talk about as one, and that is The Blood of Olympus and The House of Hades, books 4 and 5 of the Heroes of Olympus series by Riordan. I'm pretty sure we all kind of have an idea of what this series is about. It follows the series, the Percy Jackson series. I have read the Percy Jackson series twice. I never finished or continued with the Heroes of Olympus, but now I have the entire series. I believe it's only 5. I'm pretty sure it's only 5, but I have the entire series now, so I can finally sit down and read it. I think everyone knows that the series is basically about a bunch of kids who are the children of like Greek gods. Yeah, I also picked up Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. Again, super popular author in general, and her like Shadowhunter series is like very popular as well. Don't really know much about this particular series. I know which characters it's gonna follow, but I avoid spoilers pretty well. I'm pretty well into my read-through of the Shadowhunter books. I've read the entire Mortal Instruments series, I've read the Infernal Devices, and I've read the Bane Chronicles, and that's kind of how far I've gotten, so I'm pretty close to like catching up at this point. I haven't read like the Shadowhunter Academy books. I think That's all I have to read before getting to this one, if I'm not mistaken. Again, this bookstore that I get all my books, like 99% of the books that I get, most popular stuff like this, when it's used, goes pretty fast. They do get new books, like regular priced books, but when I go to a used bookstore, I want to buy used books, not brand new books. I also picked up The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Carson. This is one of those books or series that everyone who brings it up or mentions it knows that it's a good series, but only because other people have said it's a good series. I feel like the way that people speak about this series leads me to believe that like this was one of many important books that really solidified like what YA fantasy was going to be like in our current moment. So yeah, I'd like to actually know why so many people talk so highly about this, despite the fact that I feel like I haven't really spoken to a lot of people who've actually read this. I feel like everyone always says, oh, I've heard it's a good book from like other people, but like I've never read it myself. We follow a chosen one character. She is the daughter of one of two princesses, and she secretly marries some king. They are people that are hunting her. There's a prophecy at play as well. Seems like pretty like classic like YA fantasy that maybe was the blueprint for some other authors. I don't really know. But now I can read it. So taking a break from fantasy before we get back into it, I do have The Regulators by Bachman, also known as Stephen King. I eventually want to try Stephen King. I don't really know where to begin, but this was, again, very popular author, used bookstore. I snatched it up before anyone else could. I know that sounds kind of like lame. I saw someone do like their Stephen King collection, and I saw their copy of The Regulators, which is this copy, and I thought it was so ironic that I found it at my used bookstore. So I was like, you know what, this is a sign. I should pick it up. It was less than $10 for a hardcover in really good condition. So from the description, I feel like something is about to like shake up this like quiet suburban like neighborhood, which is really cool. Like suburban set mystery thriller horror novels. I don't know what it is about like horror thriller mysteries that are set in like suburbia that I really enjoy. Maybe it's like the fact that something so like mundane gets like shaken up by like something so terrible. I have been reading through like the Grishaverse to prepare for the Netflix show, but I needed some copies of certain books. So I have Ruin and Rising, Six of Crows, and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I don't really feel the need to explain the series. It's very popular. It's getting a Netflix show. If you know, you know. But I've already read through Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm, so I am on Ruin and Rising. I'd like to get through the original trilogy and the duology by the soon, obviously, before the Netflix show. I don't think I'll get through to King of Scars, but I'm ready to go. These are actually like brand new books, like regular price books. I wasn't gonna buy them, but my mom was just like, just get it. You have like the money to do it. Like you have the gift card money to do it. And I haven't bought like new books in like forever, so this feels like weird. Like I'm a used book lover, you know? Like it's still in like the binding and everything. Like that's so weird to me. So I also have The School for Good and Evil, The Last Ever After by Soman Chainani. This is the third book in the School for Good and Evil series. It's getting a Netflix adaptation. Is it Netflix or is it Disney? I don't know. It's getting adapted, and I think the cast list so far has been pretty like lit, and I'm kind of shocked. This series follows these two girls who get taken from their village and they get dropped off at the School for Good and Evil. It's pretty much like this author's take on like what makes a hero, and it really plays with the expectations and like the tropes of like a young like Arthurian hero, princesses, and all that kind of stuff. Very fantastical. It's like this whole, I don't know, it gives me like Once Upon a Time vibes. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but it's kind of similar to that in like a school setting. It's a middle grade series, so I go through these pretty quickly. I think I've read I know I've read the first book. I don't remember if I read the second one, to be honest. So the next book that I picked up was The Unwanteds by Lisa McMann. The tagline says Hunger Games meets Harry Potter. Big expectations. But apparently this is some sort of dystopian fantasy where certain students are sent to a school for like wanted kids, like I think they are, so the kids that are like strong and intelligent are go to this like wanted university, and the kids that aren't go to the unwanteds, are essentially sent to their death or something. And we follow two twins that are labeled as unwanted, and they meet someone that is about to like change the course of their life. Don't really know much else other than that. I've been wanting to get more into middle grade, and I always see the series at my used bookstore. So I also picked up a copy of My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is a really popular horror writer. So My Best Friend's Exorcism takes place in the 80s, and we have these two best friends, and one of them starts acting pretty strange, and I think the other best friend believes that her friend has been possessed by like a demon or something. I do really want to get into horror because ironically it's probably one of my favorite like genres to like watch like on film or television. I don't read a lot of horror, which kind of sucks. So the next book I have is The Sword by Deborah Chester. I'd never heard of this book before, never seen anyone talk about it, but the mass markets at my used bookstore go for like $2 to like $3. So I couldn't say no, and the cover gives me like those classic fantasy vibes, and honestly the plot doesn't sound so unique, but that's fine. We follow two characters, Alexica, whose father was a rebel leader who has passed away, and I think she now leads like the rebellion. There's some sort of evil threatening the kingdom, and we also follow a man or a boy named Dane who's half elvish, and he's some part of the royal court. It seems like the crown prince has been like poisoned by dark magic. It sounds very kind of like generic fantasy, but like I love generic fantasy, so like there's not really a problem for me there. But yeah, the store had the entire trilogy. I didn't want to buy the entire trilogy just in case, because I've never read this author, never heard anyone talk about it, so I didn't want to like take the chance for this particular series. But it was $2.50, so not a huge loss if I don't like it. And the last book I have is Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I have never read anything fully by Jane Austen. I've read like excerpts and stuff, but I really wanted a copy of this particular book because I remember seeing the film adaptation with my mother and like loving the story, and now I want to read the book. That's pretty much it. It feels weird like describing classics that tons of people have already read, but if you don't know, since this isn't like I feel talked about on the levels like Pride and Prejudice, we follow Fanny, who is the poor relative of this wealthy family who lives in Mansfield Park, and she goes to live with them at a pretty young age. Basically, this book speaks on who cares if you're wealthy, if you're a shit person. At least that's the vibe I got from the movie. So those are basically all the books that I've gotten since the beginning of the year. Please let me know if you've read any of these, if you've liked them, if you haven't liked them, if you have them yourself and you haven't picked them up. I'd like to hear anything you'd have to say. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I will link my socials down below, as well as some other important information. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.